And now let me officially welcome you to week 4. That is week 4 out of our 6-part series of the Millionaires Club. We've met for 3 consecutive weeks, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to week 4. My name is Angela, and I am a specialist with Region 1 Education Service Center. I work with both Gear Up grants, College Ready and College Now, and I'm super excited to be able to work with you on this webinar series. Let's kind of recap our journey so far. I feel like a reality show host when I say that. So during week 1, we talked about how millionaires often do not really look like millionaires. We talked about how millionaires honestly look like ordinary people. They look like you, they look like me, they look like your family, they look like anybody that you encounter in everyday life. They typically don't look like they're very fancy. Honestly, you've probably walked right past a millionaire before and not even known that they were a millionaire. One of the first steps in becoming a millionaire is to earn some money. And one way to earn some money, in fact, the best way to earn some money is to get a great education and then get a good job. And so in week 1, we talked about career choice, and you all chose the career of your dreams that you would like to have in your future age of 22. We also talked about the correlation between your education and your earnings. There's an expression, the more you learn, the more you earn. And if you look at the average salaries correlated to educational level, there's a definite correlation there. So then week 2, we talked about how the big secret, it's really not a secret, but now I'm letting you know the secret in becoming a millionaire is to pay yourself first. Once you become an adult and you get that job and you've gotten a good education and you're ready and you have that great job, you're ready to go. The secret is to prioritize saving and investing. And so we had our friends from the Securities and Exchange Commission that gave a big overview of investing, but the secret is to pay yourself first. Before anything else, carve out some money for saving and investing. And we talked about the benefits of starting that early in life. So then last week we talked about housing. And remember our friend David Garate, who's a Gear Up student, talked to you all about his experiences moving from Rio Hondo all the way to Texas A&M and College Station and everything it took for him to get an apartment. And I truly appreciated all of his comments. He is 22, and so he was able to explain the benefits of living with roommates, living alone, the pros and cons of apartment life. And so this week, drum roll. Okay, we're going to talk about your transportation and your food. So the big secret this week when it comes to transportation and food is to really sit back and think, what do I want and what do I need? And so this is a cartoon I took from a place called the Awkward Yeti, which shows the conflict between the heart and the brain. Maybe I want something, but is it what I really need? And I'm going to be honest, transportation and food is where the wheels can fall off the bus very quickly in a budget. Okay, so I've brought an expert to share some advice with you today on how to balance your wants versus your needs. And I would like for you to feel free to use the Q&A button at any time to ask any questions. My friend Rachel from the Service Center is here with me today. We also have Stephen from Technology. We'll be monitoring the Q&A button. Please ask questions, but now without any further ado, I want to introduce you to my good friend, Jonathan Vasquez from the South Texas Literacy Coalition. Applause, applause, applause. He's the Executive Director for Operations. Yesterday was his birthday, by the way. So happy birthday, Jonathan.
Thank you very much.
And I'm going to stop sharing and turn it over to you.
So thank you everybody for having me. I'm super excited. I always love to mention that a lot of you might have seen me in the past at other presentations at conferences, especially at, the gentlemen in the audience at the TIES conferences in the past. And there's nothing like talking to you in person. I cannot wait until the day that I can talk to you in person, shake your hand, give you all high fives. But until then, I'm going to try to motivate you, excite you, and educate you the best I can using these platforms, okay? And so today's presentation is going to be a little bit different than your traditional wants versus needs. We all understand to a certain extent what wants and needs are, right? But do we really think about them on a day-to-day basis? Do we think about what influences those wants versus needs, and what in our life creates a scenario to want something or need something as well, and distinguish which one is one or the other? And that's what we're going to go into depth about today, is the idea behind it, trying to become a little bit more self-aware on our spending habits, because when we can become more self-aware, we're more likely to make better decisions, especially financial decisions in the future. So again, my name is Jonathan Vasquez. I'm the Executive Director for Operations here at the South Texas Literacy Coalition, and I don't think I'm sharing the right screen here. 1 second. Oops. All right. Is the PowerPoint up on your end? Just want to make sure. All right. I've been having issues with my computer today, and I just want to make sure. All right. So again, wants versus needs. When we before we begin wants versus needs, we need to understand the idea of our values. Values strongly influence our spending habits, right? We don't usually spend our money on things that we don't feel are very important. And typically, the more important something is to us, the more willing we are to spend money on it. But when we think of our values, we need to think of what influences our values, who influences our values, and where do these values come from? Because when we can start thinking about that idea, we get deeper into the thought of, what am I doing? Where's my money going? What am I going to do tomorrow? And so forth. So your values will influence your financial decisions, your relationships, not just with your family, not just with your friends or loved ones, but all relationships determine how you will go about spending your money, or how you go about addressing your financial decisions. COVID has really opened up a different environment for you all. And this is something that you're fortunate somewhat to experience early on now, is as opposed to once you've graduated from high school, when the majority of us learn this idea. When it comes to our friends, it takes a little bit longer in life for us to understand and distinguish who are friends and what are friends, and who are more of acquaintances and people we see in our environment on a day-to-day basis. As students, you see a lot of people at school on a daily basis, because that's somewhere that you're required to go to, and you're required to be in a certain environment. So we associate people in our classroom, during lunch, during PE, and so forth, because it's an environment that we're in on a daily basis. Now, the people that we communicate, they might not be necessarily friends, but we think of them as friends because of that environment. When you transition into higher education after high school, you start to hang around with less and less people, because you're no longer in that environment anymore. And the reality is, as we get older, there's only a handful of people in your life that you truly can distinguish them as friends, that mean something to you, that you reach out to them, they reach out to you, they look for you, they inspire you, you inspire them on a daily basis. And those are our true friends, and the ones that eventually will hopefully help us make those better decisions, and you can help them make those better financial decisions in life. The reason I say that you're learning this a little bit faster is because of the COVID experience that's happening right now. You are no longer going to a classroom and talking to people and communicating and there every day in the same format that you were before. You are now probably only communicating with a certain group of people that you feel like interacting with on a day-to-day basis. So you've learned a lesson overnight that the majority of us do not learn until after we've graduated high school. Good and bad, correct? Because now you understand this idea of who your friends truly are, and how you appreciate them and how they appreciate you. Now, moving on to the next one, which still a little early, but it's something you need to understand for down the road, is our career influencers. How much your future career, how much time it allows you to have, and how much money you're able to gain from that career, to where it influences how you spend your money. Somebody who doesn't have a lot of time because they're always working, and when they're done working, they're exhausted, they come home, probably doesn't venture off and or vacation and or involved with activities and all kinds of other things because of the environment of their work. Same thing with somebody who might not make a whole bunch of money. Because of their lack of financial resources, they might not be able to participate in other things than somebody else would. So again, our career and professional choice down the road is another influencer as well. And last, the activities that we're involved in, things that you do in your free time. This is a big one as well. And this one somewhat very much correlates with that first one, which is relationships, right? And I put there COVID fun because, again, you're learning very fast on the limitations based that are happening right now. So we say on activities, some of us like to do activities that cost us a whole bunch of money. Those of you who are into video games and like playing all different types of video games, those video games cost you $70 each, right? If you go out with friends because your friends want to hang out at the movie or they want to go buy stuff at the mall, they influence you because you want to be around them. You want to be in that environment or that group. And you're more likely to spend $50 at one outing during the week, as opposed to what we're calling, I guess, the COVID, environment now, where we're looking for alternatives to having fun because we can't go out in public the way we used to. We can't be out in big groups the way we used to. And it's saving us from spending all of those monies everywhere now. But now we've learned to develop and really evolve into a more intimate scenario where you could potentially do activities that are more cost effective. I use the example that one of my teammates here at STLC brought up to me this week, where, they get together and they either have a game night or they have a movie night where they invite a couple of very intimate friends in a safe environment, and they're able to watch a movie. They all pitch in $3, $5, whatever it is, and they get a botana or pizza or snacks and all kinds of stuff. And they hang out and they truly appreciate that time with each other, as opposed to going out in a different environment where they're more likely to spend money. Mm-hmm. And so another thing about COVID, like I said, is it's really helped us develop and understand that intimacy when it comes to our relationships and our friendships. And again, all these ideas are important for the reason that your values, based off of the people you surround yourself with, the environment that you have in your life, will influence your financial decisions. Look at that last statement there. The last statement says, yet despite this importance of the idea behind values influencing our decisions, very few people choose their values. What does this mean? Let's think about it like this. Do you wake up every day and say, I'm going to be in this environment, I'm going to be around these people, I'm going to have this kind of lifestyle because my number one goal is to save money? Not very many people wake up with that mindset. Not very many people. And that's not saying that it's good or that's bad, but we do realize that we have to be more mindful of the outside forces, the outside environments and things in our lives that influence our spending habits. So when it comes to values are influenced by our family, by our friends, teachers, coaches, even television, even movies. Think about the commercials that we see about buying this and this is the coolest product. People, influencers out there on social media saying this is trending and whatnot. All these things in our life that we put ourselves in these environments influence our values. Each person has a different value from the next that guides their daily decisions. And I use this photo right here of a house that's fallen apart, and they have a Range Rover and a Corvette. The cars look brand new, well taken care of. They look really expensive, but the house is, as we can see, is decrepit. It's in not good living conditions. Where I'm from, in a colonia in South McAllen called the Balboa, I like to use that as a very, very prime example, because in my neighborhood that I'm from, when I grew up, that was a very common thing. You would see a family of about 5-10 people living in one small house that's kind of falling apart, needs a lot of attention, love, and care, but yet all of them have brand new cars and they're investing in their cars and their rims and whatever, and they have their monthly payments that are like $700, and then their insurance payment that's like $200, plus they invest all kinds of stuff, so they're paying like $1,000 a month just to upkeep with their vehicle and maintain their brand new vehicle, yet their living environment is not being invested in. The place that they put their head down at night to go to sleep, to wake up fresh, to go about their day the next day, to either work or go on with their lives is not being taken care of. The place where they eat, the place that they have their family and they take care of their loved ones is not being maintained because their priority or their value is going towards their vehicles. So this is a prime example of our environment. And a lot of these things are learned habits that are indirect, where people in our life influence, or we see them and we think that's, and we kind of develop that mindset as well. So again, the idea is thinking about how we make our decisions, about how we're influenced on a daily basis. So here's something, and again, I'm not going to make you do this, but it's a great little activity to really get to understanding the people in your life, or the people that you allow in your life, and how they affect you and how they influence you. So in your head, think about if you were to have to write an advertisement for a best friend. If you had somebody in your life and you were advertising for somebody out there to be a big role in your life, what would 5 qualities or characteristics be that you desire or value in that friend? And as you're thinking about those 5 characteristics, think to yourself, why do you feel that those characteristics or values are important? Do you want a friend that's adventurous and going all over the place all the time and that likes to go out and go places? Or do you like a friend that's more caring, that talks to you, that's positive and a positive influence and pushes you to do more and pushes you to be a better person? Think about who you allow in your life, because it's a reflection of you and your values as well, of what you think you want in a best friend. So always think about that. So again, now that we understand our values a little bit more, we're going to go into depth a little bit more about wants versus needs. Now, we all understand this basic concept to an extent about want. What is a want and what is a need? A want is something unnecessary, but we desire. One of the things that I desired for the longest time is right there. And one of the new Xbox Series X. I love video games. I had the old Xbox, but I wanted the new one. I wanted it so bad that I tried about 7 different times to purchase that online at the end of last year, and I could never get it. It drove me crazy, to the point where I went on Facebook Marketplace and I saw somebody selling it in McAllen for $1,300, and I said, I'm buying that. It might only cost me $5.99 if I were to purchase it, and if I was able to purchase it, but since I can't, I'm gonna spend $1,300, and I was gonna get it. Well, guess what? I went and I told my wife, I said, hey, I'm gonna go buy this Xbox for $1,300, and she said, nope. And that was that. So needless to say, I did not get the new Xbox. However, I was able to get one afterwards at the regular price because it was something that I could afford. But that doesn't mean I needed it. It was a want. And for some reason, the desire was there. I had my Xbox, but there was something telling me I needed to have it. And so again, even us as adults, we do the same thing. And it's a practice that we have to start off from a young age to truly be able to get where we need to be. But again, we're not all perfect. I'm not perfect. I'm by far the furthest thing from it. I saw a question or a comment pop up. Did somebody have a question?
There was a comment about your chair. Someone noticed that your love of gaming, you kind of gave it away with your chair.
Oh yeah, my gaming chair. And it's a comfort chair. It's a recliner. It has a back massager and everything. I spend a lot of hours behind my computer for work and for grad school, and so I got to make sure that I'm in a good environment.
Right.
But I thank you for acknowledging my chair. The next thing is the needs, right? We know what needs are, something that you can't live without. I think it's, what is it, Maslow's basic needs. One of the most basic needs of life is food. We need to have food. Now, we're not talking about, and you'll go into detail about this later, we're not talking about food where, okay, I need to spend $10 on Whataburger, Chick-fil-A every day. Because if you were to do every meal every day for Whataburger, Chick-fil-A, you're probably spending about $30 a day for 3 meals at Whataburger. $30. What we're looking to do to make it a need is we're trying to expand that dollar amount to cover as many meals as possible, to make sure that you're getting the full food, the full consumption of nutrients that you can. because Whataburger every day, one, it's not healthy in any way, shape, or form. But what I mean by this is a need is if you can spend that $30 and you can buy ingredients to not only feed yourself instead of $30 for one day, $30 for 3 days to feed yourself and maybe a family member, a roommate, a loved one, a best friend. That's really expanding that food dollar into an actual need, right? We want to spend our money smart. We don't want to just throw it away because, oh, it's the quickest thing, it's the easiest thing, and it's delicious. We have to be smarter about our consumption and really make sure that we're not using a need and kind of pushing into the lane of making it a want, right? Because it's easy to turn a need into a want by overspending, paying too much, and getting something that you don't really need when you can afford something that's a lot cheaper, that's pretty much identical. All right. So examples of wants right here. And I put this example for a reason because I have a story to tell you about one of the many, many mistakes I made when I was younger. This car right here has a big old box in the back, and that's a speaker system. And the story behind this is my first year in college at South Texas Community College, STCC, which is now South Texas College. I had my financial aid. It's the check that they send you after all your classes are paid by your financial aid, by your grants. They'll send you a specific dollar amount based off of your need to pay for books, to pay for food, to pay for gas, to pay for supplies, to pay for the essentials, right? Well, guess what I did? Instead of buying all of those necessities, I went out and I bought a $600 speaker system for my car. The greatest thing ever. Rockford Fosgate, 15-inch subwoofer speakers, nice custom-made box. I cranked it all the way up, drove, wasted all kinds of gas driving around for no reason, just so I can have the houses around me shaking. My rear view, what do you call it thing? Rear view mirror just fell off from vibrating, the car vibrating so much. The plastic and the rubber seals around the windows, all that stuff was falling off from the vibration. But it was the greatest thing ever for a week and a half. It was the greatest thing ever. So I thought. Well, a week and a half later, professor starts to say, you need this book and you need these materials and you need this for the rest of the semester. And I was like, whoa, what's going on? What do you mean I have to pay $90 for a book? And that's from one professor. And then another professor needed a lab manual for $40 that you use once and you write it in it and then you throw it away and never see it again. And so guess what I did? That speaker system, that surround sound system that I bought for my car for $600, a week and a half later, I sold it for $200. So I spent $600, sold it for $200, and lost $400 in a week and a half because, again, it was just a terrible decision on my part. For some reason, I needed it. I had to spend the money on it, and I did. Terrible mistake because I no longer had it, and on top of that, I lost $400 that I could have had go towards food, towards gasoline, towards my book resources and stuff like that. And again, it was just a waste. So let's look at these other items that I have here. I'm not a huge shoe person. I know a lot of people are, but I see a lot of youth, a lot of teenagers that are into these Yeezys things. I've never seen a pair in real life, but apparently they're like one of the most popular brands of shoes by Kanye West, and they sell for hundreds of dollars, and they go out quick, and everyone has to have them. And if you don't have them, you're not cool, and only the coolest of the cool have them. I don't get it. You know, I'm pretty sure you can buy a whole lot of shoes with that amount of money, right? So spending smart. And then the iPhone. This is a big one, right? The newest phone. Somebody has an iPhone 11, the iPhone 12 comes out 6 months later. They have to have it. Why? I don't know. It serves the same purpose. Technology doesn't change that much, hasn't changed from the 11 to the 12. The camera is essentially the same, but for some reason it's the 12 and we have to have it. Why? So we need to ask ourselves why. What is influencing us in our lives that make us feel we have to have these items? So again, at the bottom it says, how do your values influence your wants? If being popular or having all the newest gadgets is valued, a person may have a lot of wants. So if you're a person that feels having things and having the newest of things is something of value, you really need to stop and take the time to communicate with yourself and try to figure out why. Why do I need these things in my life? And then moving on to needs. So we understand the essentials, right? Gasoline for our car, your vehicle, and that's something they're going to cover in a bit. But you're going to have to make smart decisions because, like I said, it's easy to transition from a need to a want based off of the decision you make. You need gasoline for a car. You need, you know, let's say you need a vehicle to go to school or to go to the university. Yes, you can make payments on a vehicle and everything, but think about this. Depending on what kind of vehicle you get is how much you're paying every month. So the cars that you saw in the photo I showed you earlier, those cars, they're probably paying over $500 a month for those vehicles. And it depends on a lot of things, how good your credit is what percentage of interest you're going to be paying every month, right? How many months you're financing your vehicle for, what kind of job you have. There's so many things that influence what kind of vehicle you can get that we're not aware of yet because it's something that is not a part of your lives yet. But when you get to that point, it's easy to say, oh, I'm going to go get a Toyota Tacoma truck and I only plan on paying $300. Guess what? For a Toyota Tacoma truck, you are not paying only $600. I've looked into it. You're probably going to pay anywhere from $600 to $800 depending on your credit if you can get it. On top of that, think of all the gas you're paying, probably paying an additional $200 of insurance a month depending on what plan you have, and everything that comes along with maintaining and keeping that vehicle running, as opposed to whatever alternatives are available as opposed to that. I put insulin there because for a lot of us, we don't realize it now, but medical, that's going to be a big thing down the road. We need to make sure and have our medical needs covered and make sure that there's some sort of savings to prepare for that. Your housing situation, whether you're renting an apartment or you're staying on campus, you still have to pay towards that, but you have to go about it in a smart way and do the research to find out what is the most cost-effective option for you. And then that picture with that family, the reason I put that is it refers to the food component. As you see there, they cooked up a meal that's not Burger King, Whataburger, but that meal probably cost them, I'm going to say $20 to make at the most, but it didn't feed one person, it fed 4 people, and there's probably going to be left over for the next day or for another meal, so that it expands that dollar amount that they spent on that meal, right? So again, being more aware of our decisions when it comes to spending. And I'm almost done. Got 2 more slides for you. So to wrap up the idea is we need to become self-aware. And the idea behind this is when we become more self-aware, we begin to ask ourselves and talk to ourselves, asking ourselves questions on, why do I do this? Why do I want that? Why do I want this person in my life? Where am I going to go? How am I going to get there? When we ask ourselves these questions, we become more self-aware of ourselves, who we are as a person, how we want to grow, and how we're going to get there. So again, how do values influence how we spend our money and make financial decisions? That's something to always think about. What are my values and why are those my values? And how do needs and wants influence how people spend money and make financial decisions? So now that we understand better our values, we can understand better what are our needs, what are our wants, and which is the best route and best way to go about making those decisions to cover those things. Before I wrap up, I have one more side that I feel that it's a very great component to this, because there's always that gray area, right? Where it begins to transition into from a need to a want, but there's also that gray area where it's either a want, maybe a need, and then maybe it's something that's an investment. There's this thing called YouTube. I don't know if you've ever heard of it before, but YouTube has all kinds of videos, all kinds of knowledge, all kinds of things that you can learn from. YouTube is how I learned how to work on my motorcycles. YouTube is how I learned how to do video editing, learn how to use Premiere Pro, learn how to use cameras, learn how to do all kinds of stuff. YouTube is without a doubt how I put my house and fix things at my house, build my backyard, installed my grass and stuff. Everything I learned was from YouTube. Those are all skills that I can invest in. You can invest in them for free by watching YouTube videos and learning. And then eventually you can make smart decisions with the money that you have. So I put a lawnmower there because one point about a year and a half, 2 years ago, we had a presenter over in Harlingen come and say they started their lawn care business by purchasing a lawnmower at a pawn shop. From there, they started mowing lawns, and their business grew little by little to it turned into a fleet, an army of a business in lawn care, huge army. And it started off with that one cost-effective purchase where they bought a lawnmower or something like that for 60 bucks at a pawn shop. And they made the decision to invest in that. And it ended up growing. They got their money back, I'm sure, within a week or two after mowing 1 or 2 lawns, right? They got that return on investment. And then from there, everything was profit after that. They were able to invest in themselves a skill. I put a camera, I put a laptop because that's what I do. I invested in my laptop, I invested in my camera because that's something that I do on the side as well. I do video editing, I do photography, videography, and everything I learned was from YouTube. And I'm able to charge for these services on top of everything that I do for my career. This is something that I have as an alternative in case something's going on where for some reason I don't continue on with my job or whatever. I have an alternative to my financials. And so that's something that I wanted to throw in there at the end. So begin asking yourself, what do you want to do? What do you want to learn? Who do you want to be? And slowly invest in that now, either through your education and or through YouTube tutorials, whatever resources you can find. So that's my presentation. Thank you all so much for having me. Again, best advice I can give you is think, talk, communicate to yourselves. Ask yourselves these questions. Begin to learn about who you are, what you want to do with life, and how to get there.
Jonathan, hope you can hear my clapping.
I can hear it.
You are the real deal. I appreciate it. Every time I hear the story about the speaker for your car, and I think, I think many adults, in fact, probably most adults have a story where we look back and we realize that was the wrong decision.
I have many of those.
Yeah, I've got a few, Rachel. I'm sure, I don't know your stories, but I'm sure you may have a few. And students, you're gonna make a few mistakes as well, but hopefully you can pause and think. Because when you do get your career and you get that first check, it's probably going to be for more money than you ever had before. Mm-hmm. And you're automatically going to default into this shiny, I need shiny things. I need things that make me look cool. I need things that make me popular and cool. And I hope that something you've heard from Jonathan today will make a flag go up in the back of your mind that just says, wait, put the brakes on. Is this really a good idea? Jonathan, you are the best. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
You all have a wonderful day. Thank you, everybody.
Right. Thanks, Jonathan. We'll be seeing you soon.
Bye.
All right, students, we are now going to flip over and let's work on your budgets. You've heard some great advice from my friend Jonathan. And so now let's put it all together for you all. So let me see here. So I have side by side to the Millionaires Club Google site, along with your salary-based budgeting worksheets. By the way, these worksheets, you can give these to your friends. You could give a blank template to your family members. This is not just for you. Feel free to share. Whenever you come across great information, I kind of feel it's my responsibility to share my knowledge with others, and I hope you feel the same way. So let's kind of walk through. I made a few little changes to mine. Let's see if you can spot the changes I made. First of all, in column F, I'm going to highlight it. What I noticed before is that the font on on column F, the font was like a light gray color. I changed it to black so we can read this more easily. So I highly recommend that in column F, if you will go up to, if you're using Word, you would use this little button right here and use black. That way you can see all the words. Another thing I did in column E, this little heading right here, it was hard to read everything. So I minimized the font to a 6. And that way I can read this entire title. So just a little heads up, I changed a couple of things on mine. So let's kind of walk through where we are in our budget. First thing, step 2 right here, you chose a career. I chose middle school teacher. I can't wait to see what you put. All right, I'm sure you all put all kinds of great careers, so I'm really looking forward to seeing your choices. We used My Next Move to calculate or to research the average gross salary in the community that you want to live in. Step 3, we divided that by 12 to get the monthly amount of pay on average that middle school teachers would make, or your career in your chosen community. And then we used an online paycheck calculator to estimate taxes. Then we talked about savings. For this hypothetical example, I chose 5% for my savings account. I chose 15% for my retirement, because remember, we're 22. I'm not 22 anymore, but I'm going to pretend. And wouldn't it be a beautiful thing at the age of 22 if I could start saving that much? We looked at the compound interest calculator on week 2 of the website to see how much that would be worth after a lifetime of saving, and it was impressive. And so that's the total savings amount. So this is what's left over to budget. And remember, we talked about the importance, pay yourself first. Notice this was the first thing we did right out of the gate when we get the paycheck. You get the paycheck, you save and invest. First thing. I mean, I promise you, that is the secret. Okay, it's not even a big secret. It's just that simple. Then we looked at rent. I went based on Brownsville, Texas. We used the Zumper rent calculator, and we found an apartment. I chose personally a 2-bedroom apartment so I could share expenses. So this amount was based on the Zumper rent calculator, a 2-bedroom apartment, and that rental amount is divided by 2 people. For renter's insurance, we all put 20. For cable and satellite, I use an antenna. We joked about that. I'm that lady with an antenna. So I put $14 for my Netflix account. For internet, that's the price divided by 2 people. Remember, I'm sharing an apartment with a friend, so I can divide the Wi-Fi cost with another person. I don't use a home phone. I chose unlimited data on my cell phone. And then for the electric bill, again, we divided that by 2 people. And so all of the instructions were given last week for that. So now we're going to work on these 2 areas today. We're going to go from 13 to 21. We're going to do transportation and food. Keep in mind the whole time wants versus needs, because this is where it becomes really easy to lose control of your budget. Okay, here's the instructions. I'm on the Google site right now. Step 13, do you plan to use public transportation? If you're not going to use any public transportation at all, you would put a 0 here. If you do plan to use public transportation, you need to think every month, how many days am I going to use public transportation? Is it 30 days a month? Is it 20 days a month? Is it 10 days a month? More than likely, it's at least 20 days a month. If you're working full time, you need to get to work. It's at least 20 days a month. And most realistically, you're probably going to use public transportation every day unless you're going to stay home a lot. Okay, so full fare, it's $4. These are the actual prices off of Valley Metro. I looked it up. This is a screenshot off of their website. Full fare is $4 a day. So if you're going to use public transportation, multiply the number of days in a given month that you're going to use public transportation times 4, and you would put that amount here. If public transportation is your complete means of transportation, 30 days a month times 4, that's 120. That would probably be the number that you would go with. For myself, I'm going to put 0 because I'm going to have a car. But again, many people find it useful to use public transportation. That's definitely a choice, okay? Also, full disclosure, there was a point in time in my very young life that I didn't have a car and I rode a bicycle. If that makes sense for you, you could put that in there too. Okay, step 14, car payments. I put a chart in here that shows you, based on a 3-year loan at an interest rate of 4.75, what the payments are for different amounts. So let's notice something. If you have a car that's worth about $8,000, chances are your car payment is going to be around $240 a month. If you have a car with a loan of $10,000, chances are your monthly payment will be $300 a month. And you can continue reading the chart. Notice I'm compelled to think back to the slides Jonathan had. He showed a house that had like a fancy truck and a very fancy sports car. Chances are, I don't know honestly how much those cars cost, but I'm going to think they're on the high end, around the $30,000 to $45,000 price. These are some very hefty payments. And that's why I wanted him to talk to you about wants versus needs, because you could, I guess, get a car, a $45,000 car, and pay this much, but is that what you really need to get around? And so I hope that you'll really step back and think, is that what you really need? I'm going to put down what my for real life car payment is. It's $346 a month. I want you all to use the chart and think what type of a car is your choice. The reason I chose the $346 a month is because that's how much I pay. The price of my car was $22,000, and I bought a Kia Niro, and this is true life. And I purchased that because it's a hybrid car and it gets 50 miles to the gallon. And it's important to me to get good gas mileage. Also, I'm going to make a note here about the public transportation. I'm not going to use. Do not use. If you're going to use it, you would put Valley Metro. Those are the prices. Okay. Real quick note too, I hyperlinked a website called Bankrate. Let me just show you something really quickly, a little shout out for credit scores. This is one of my favorite websites for kind of estimating what your payments are going to be. And you can put in all types of scenarios to see what a real payment would be on a car you're looking at. You can populate in if it's a new or a used car, how many months you're going to pay, what your credit score is, the zip code you live in, and it will show you what type of payment you can expect. But let me scroll down and show you the impact of your credit score. Take a look. Let me make it big for you here. Take a look right here. If you have a near perfect credit score between 781 and 850, chances are your interest rate on a new car is going to be around 3%. If you have terrible credit, your score is 300 to 500. For the exact same car, you're going to pay almost 14% interest. So if you walk side by side with a friend into a car dealership and you have nearly perfect credit and they have terrible credit and you buy the exact same car, you're going to walk out paying a lot less money for that car than your friend. So big shout out to the value of paying your bills on time and having a good credit score. Okay, moving down. So basically for step 14, you're going to choose what type of a loan are you comfortable with, and what amount are you comfortable with paying for a car. Remember, wants versus needs. You may want to drive around in a fancy car, but all you really need is just to get there. Okay. All right. Step 15, car insurance. Everyone has to have insurance. It's the law. Having car insurance is the law. You have options here. Full coverage insurance these are the national averages. Full coverage is around $136 a month. That covers almost everything. It covers another car if you hit it. It covers your car if they hit you. It is what it describes, full coverage. Minimum coverage is the bare bones. It's the basic. It basically, if you're in an accident, it covers the other person's car. It may not cover much of your own. You're required by law to have minimum coverage, which they call liability insurance. Like if I were to run over somebody, I hope I haven't jinxed myself, fingers crossed, you're covered. It covers any damage you inflict upon another person or their vehicle. It doesn't cover you. I want full coverage, so I'm going to put that here. Again, I'm showing you the example. Sometimes I even hesitate to do this because when you make your choices, I don't want you to just copy me. I want you to think what's right for you. But I'm happy to share with you some of the thinking that I've gone through as I've gone through my choices. Step 16, car maintenance. Everyone's going to put $100 a month here. You need to be putting some money to the side every month for those unexpected car repairs. a popped tire, you didn't change the oil and your engine burned up, the alternator went out, a fan belt broke, the AC on the car went out. You can't have that. You've got to have AC in the car. If you'll put about $100 a month to the side, don't touch it. It's in a little bucket somewhere, a little jar hidden away from anyone. Then when these car repairs surface, you're prepared. And then gas. Again, I have a hybrid. I get 50 miles to the gallon. Yay, me. I really recommend you look at when you're buying a car, what kind of gas mileage does it get? Some of those real high-end cars, they get terrible mileage. Here's a chart I want you to use if you're driving about 25 miles a day in your 22-year-old future life. Let's go with about $90 a month for gas. If you're going to drive about 35 miles a day, let's go with 126. If you're going to drive about 45 miles a day, let's go with 162. And that's the number I'm going to put in because I drive a lot. Actually, not right now in COVID, but it's going to end soon, God willing. And I'll be driving all over the place again. And I may even show up at your schools to come see you. That would be awesome. Okay. Notice something before we do food. Another cool feature of this spreadsheet is notice column E. It's been calculating what percent of our overall budget these things are. So my total cost of living for housing, notice it automatically calculated for me 13. That means my housing is 13% of my total budget. Ooh, how cool is that? My transportation right now is at 17% of my total budget. Okay. So let's do groceries and dining out. I'm going to go down to step 19. And here's another little chart. Here's what we need to decide. First of all, females, you're going to look at the top row. Males, look at the bottom row. And ask yourself, when I go to the grocery store, do I think I can purchase the food I need for a whole month with $167 for females, $211, $259, or $332? This is a personal decision for you. I do not know how much you eat. Some of you are super active and you have a very big appetite. You're also 22 with a great metabolism. And so you need to decide what suits you. Males, it costs a little bit more to feed you. Obvious reasons. You're bigger, got more muscle mass typically. And so these are the prices. Males, if you believe you can shop for your groceries on $188 a month, yay. Another price point would be $242. Think about it when you go to the groceries. Think about what types of foods you're purchasing. I'm going to put for myself, because I know how I eat, I'm going to put 167. I eat a lot of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. That may freak some of you all out. I know my colleagues at work sometimes give me a hard time because I bring peanut butter sandwiches almost every day and an apple. But that's okay. That's just me. You need to decide what's right for you. So this is the grocery store, and I'm going with the thrifty plan. I just always have. Okay. Dining out. Okay, I have a lot to say about this. Dining out. How many times have you heard people that they get their paycheck and the first thing they say is, I got paid. Where are we going to go eat? Yes, I know you're thinking of somebody. Okay, I know you're thinking of somebody in your mind, and it may even be you. If that's the first thing you think when you get your paycheck, let me challenge you to switch that and start thinking, rather than where can we go eat, to how much can I save and invest? It's a challenge. Okay. Please accept the challenge. I hope that the first thing you think about is your savings and investment account. But I do know we like to go out to eat as well. So let's get real here. This is the way to read this chart. Let's just say if you go out once a week to a restaurant where the average meals are $10 a meal, you need to budget $40 a month. That's just for you. That's not if it's you and a date. And girls, you can take guys out on dates too, and you pay. So this is just for your food. If you're going out on a date, you need to double it if you're treating, or if you're treating a friend. Okay, this is for one person. If you're going to go to a nicer restaurant and the average price is $15 a meal and you do that once a week, you need to budget $60 a month. Something to be really careful about. What if you go 5 times a week to a place where it's about $10 a meal? That's $200 a month you're budgeting for a restaurant. Think about it. Think about it at the end of the month. I'm not saying not to do it. I'm never going to tell you what to do. I want you to think though, if you go to a restaurant 5 days a week and you get a meal worth $10, you do that for the whole month, that's $200. At the end of the month, what do you have to show for that $200? You maybe some selfies at the restaurant. I don't know. Maybe some of you took pictures of your food and put them on social media. The food's gone. Okay. Maybe some good memories, some good laughs with some friends. I'm going to put, so this is how to read the chart, depending on how expensive the meals are, $10 a meal, $15 a meal, $20 a meal, $30 a meal, how often you go. Is it just for you, or are you going to go on a date or treat another person? I'm going to put what's realistic. I go out maybe once a week with my friends. I pay for myself. We go to a restaurant that it's maybe $20 a meal. So I'm going to put this $80. And that's my real life. I typically get together with friends once a week. I pay for my own food. That's the end of that. What I also do is I have friends over and we cook a lot. And that's, we can get together and it costs a lot less. So we can still enjoy each other's company. But sometimes I'll cook, sometimes everyone brings something and we do that. So notice that the spreadsheet's been calculating our totals. In my fictitious 22-year-old life, I spent $744 on transportation and $247 for meals. I'll tell you a true story real quick. I know we're going to run out of time in a minute. True story. When I was 22, I had not gotten my for real first job yet with a for real paycheck. So a couple of things I did to save money on car. One thing I did to save money was I rode a bicycle for a good bit of time. And then after a while, I got tired of the bicycle. And so I upgraded to a moped. Okay. Yeah, I rode a moped for about a year. It was really awesome. I thought I was so cool. And I was cool. Another thing I did for groceries and dining out in college, this was my college job. I was working as a server. And I chose that job because there's always food in a restaurant. So that wasn't, again, my forever job, but it was something I did to save. So when you get your career, you've got your college, either certificate or associate's degree or bachelor's degree, and you've got a salary going and you can afford a little bit more. So let's kind of wrap it up today. Step 21 was to calculate the total. Spreadsheet did it for us. Yes. And now let's talk about your journal topic for the week. And the journal topic is discuss what you've learned about wants versus needs and how that relates to your transportation and your food choices. Jonathan had great advice. I know a lot of times we want to be cool. Everybody wants to be cool. I want you to remember that being cool comes from being confident. It doesn't come from what kind of car you drive or what kind of restaurants you go to. Being cool comes from your confidence. So if you want to be cool, work on that and then get the car you need, get the food plan you need, and just work on that confidence and you'll be super cool. I promise. Okay. That's the end. Do we have any questions, any Q&A, anything unanswered out there? Okay, I'm going to hang out online a little longer. Rachel, let's go ahead and stop recording. I appreciate all of you, your time, your attention today. Have a great week. Stay warm. Enjoy the free air conditioning outside. Okay.